This week on Women Who Rise, I'm joined by James Rembert, founder, strategist, and one of the most compelling voices helping business leaders cut through the noise around marketing and AI. James went from licensed real estate agent to building a boutique agency and now teaches entrepreneurs how to stop collecting tools and start building systems that actually work. In this episode, we talk about what it takes to lead through change, communicate with clarity, and create scalable growth without losing the human connection at the center of great business. If you've been craving a smarter, more grounded conversation about innovation, visibility, and what real leadership looks like now, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Women Who Rise. I'm your host, Heather Mansy. Today, I'm joined by James Rembert, founder of Digital Natives Incorporated and Nudge Software, and a powerful voice helping real estate professionals rethink marketing, technology, and growth through a far more practical lens. James began his career as a licensed real estate agent in New Jersey, then built a business around solving the gap between what agents were told about lead generation and what actually worked in the real world. Now, through his consulting, workshops, and the Agent Lab, he teaches leaders how to move from connecting AI tools to building real systems that create momentum, clarity, and scale. This conversation matters because James brings both strategy and substance to a moment when so many entrepreneurs are trying to lead through rapid change without losing their voice, their edge, or their humanity. James, thank you so much for being on the program.
No, thank you for having me.
So I wanted to get started a little bit about digital natives and Nudge Software. You had a career built at the intersection of real estate marketing and advertising systems and AI implementation. What are some of your thoughts around the change that those companies affected in the world and how your evolution went to what you do today?
Well, I mean, the unique part about what I do ties into just how our industry is just kind of positioned. Like, we're still antiquated. Even when we talk to people that talks innovation, there's still like a dated understanding of what's available. So where we try and fit in is to try and at least bring the industry that we can impact up to date into things that are current. And like I said, I mean, no big change on our side. It's just fascinating how our leaders that are in the industry still struggle with understanding where we are currently. And I'm always confused why our industry just stays so antiquated in reference to not just technology, but the current state we are in reference to how business can be grown, scaled, and of course done.
That's so interesting what you just said. And I appreciate that because basically we are slow adopters, aren't we? And business as a whole. I mean, I think depending on the individual, you talk about the person who's, running out to learn about technology. They're excited about what's next and they're ready to get started. And then you've got, a whole chunk of people that are somewhere quite slowly behind that. And, they're thinking that, okay, maybe I should check this out. I'm starting to hear about it. But there's a really large group of people, maybe 30, 40%, that are going to be really slow to adopt at all. And they're going to wait and make sure that the early adopters and even the middle group are, happy with it. It's working. And in fact, that tends to be how a lot of people are. They're going to follow the crowd after the crowd is already gone. And so when you talk about business, I think it's so fascinating because you could look at almost any sector, I think job sector in America. And, like they say, medical knowledge, because I'm into biohacking, medical knowledge can be basically 10 to 15 years behind application from what they actually learn and find out and know that we could be applying today, but it isn't. So technology and at the pace that it's growing right now. But I loved what you said as well, that this idea, look, the technology is there. It has been there. You guys are just not recognizing that that's the case. And this is where you're at that intersection. I wanted to talk about, the systems first approach that you're teaching It's AI through private consulting, team rollouts, the agent lab. I saw you speak on stage a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
You blew the mind of every single person there. And the We Connect workshops, I've since sent one of my operations managers to learn from you. She came, back just absolutely mind blown. What can you tell us about your model of training right now and how this works? And what a person could expect to learn or be able to understand from one of your workshops.
Yeah, of course. One thing that we try and deviate away from is just the technobabble, and we follow a simple process where we base everything off of 6 protocols, right? So whatever your SOPs are, which is your standard operating procedures, we have standard operating procedures that we use inside of every client, every consultation, every structure, and then we tie them to 5 basic tools, which one of the tools is a CRM. So if I say you need a CRM, I don't care which one you use. You just need a CRM. And when you can start to kind of simplify, you need some type of protocol to tie all of this information to, like this is what you do, right? And then you need standard tools that you use. Now you don't get caught up into, well, this is new. This is a new AI software. That's not one of the tools. So it doesn't matter. Right. And then we pivot that into one system, which is your CRM. So technically there are 4 tools. One CRM makes us the 5th tool and 6 protocols. And every conversation, every training, every workshop follows that same process where even if we don't go into depth about the protocols, we always pivot back to the protocol structure without all of the intricate details. And like I said, if we can just simplify, one of the models I always say on stage and anyone I'm in front of is we have to follow a thesis that we accept that it's just unfamiliar first. It's not hard. And if we can get the industry to understand or anybody we come in contact with before we identify it as being hard, right? We just accept that it's unfamiliar. If we say it's hard, we run away from that. Unfamiliar, now it's up to you to decide to move forward, but it removes the excuses in reference to what could be done. So, the core behind anything we do in reference to the consultation, in agent lab, from speaking, anything that's inside the ecosystem of the agent lab structure follows 6 protocols. We stay with 5 tools and we always pivot to one system. And it just makes it easier because you don't have to get caught up in what's new, right? You kind of focus on what's efficient, not what's new, right? And unfortunately, a lot of what's new is inefficient for our industry. So it's not worth talking about. Like ChatGPT, it's like it was new at the time, but it became inefficient. Now we found things that are more proficient for our industry. So we push that to the side and we accept that. Now I don't need to pay attention to anything OpenAI is talking about until it becomes relevant again. But right now, it's too far gone in reference to relevancy. And we have the tools that we need. So we lock into there until that tool becomes inefficient. And then we pivot from there, but doesn't matter if it's new or not.
That's phenomenal. And yes, it's so easy to get caught up in, the news or, social media, the next big thing, the next shiny thing. It can become extremely overwhelming. I love a couple things about what you just said, just the fact that it's a really clean protocol. You're talking about 5 tools, one system, 6 steps. This is what people need right now. We want just the recipe. We don't want to become AI engineers. We want to become proficient users that have the capacity to stay ahead or stay at least up with our industry in whatever industry that is. And our podcast is broad. We do focus a lot on real estate, but we have people of all walks and all industries. And, if you're looking to scale a business or, like I always say, if you're looking to start an ice cream shop, you will need to probably engage in AI at some level
Mhm,
of that
mhm,
business in the coming years because our world is changing. I remember actually being in advertising sales when the internet came out. And I
mhm.
remember selling the first banner ad for our station in California. And this idea of a banner ad, we thought, wow, I can't believe somebody would pay, $5,000 to pay for this a web banner, but we closed the deal. And, that was 97, 96. And it's just shocking how the internet is completely ubiquitous in our lives. We don't even think of it or call it the internet anymore. We just call it the apps and the tech and the things that we do, and Googling is a verb. I also really like what you talked about, efficient versus new. And I know you taught the audience, Claude Cowork, I think you had said, has greatly supplanted anything, chat GPT or even related to what that corporation is coming out with. And that Claude Cowork has become this, the real go-to. So I love the idea that we can leave it up to people like you to go and find and understand what systems are relevant now and what is efficient and how to make them efficient. And then we can just hang on your coattails and let you be the expert of this, because I do think it takes some level of expertise to sift through the noise, the same way that we help buyers and sellers sift through the noise, or that I help my agents sift through the noise of what is relevant to an agent. They don't need to go buy every single real estate tool. I know what they need. You mentioned something about lead generation. I know this is something you had kind of simplified or clarified what can be used for lead gen. I want to ask you about two kind of main pillars in the life of realtors, or really, I think most or any businesses. Lead generation, that's attraction and management, right? Nurturing after you attract them, figuring out how to attract them, and then nurturing them. And the next is social media. This is something everyone's talking about. It's sort of free advertising if you do it right. But it's a huge volume of work, especially if you're following like Alex Hormozy or something. He's, I think at this point, posting 100 times a day or whatever he's doing. And so if you can talk to those two, kind of main things, lead gen and management, you mentioned a CRM and social media.
Yeah, of course. Of course, I mean, when we talk about social, it's just easy distribution and quick to build awareness, right? Sometimes we struggle with the results that we think we should get, right? But again, attention is earned, not given anymore. And then you, when it comes to lead generation, the same core concepts of what we would normally do as an agent, from even phone prospecting, from expired FISBOs, it still works, right? The problem is a lot of people complain because they're not doing it. But what if we could at least automate who you're talking to at the right time, right? Not saying they're going to convert, but instead of talking to 100 people to get to that 3 that might be the right person, what if we can condense it down to that 3? And now you got time to tighten up what you should say to that person. This is what agentic workflows bring to the table, right? We don't have to deviate from the core process of how we get in front of leads, especially when it comes to listings. We just need to create a more intelligent way to get there, right? And when you understand that, that's why like voice agents are super important, right? They can cipher out like who is it, even if it's just the right number, right address, right person. Now you can give that to your team out of the thousand of information, thousands of data points that you have in reference to name, number, and email, right? And then you go into how do you stay top of mind? Top of mind is putting things of value, or at least things that are relevant to the person that you've originally talked to, right? Not something just so static where it's just like everyone gets this, right? We can create. We have enough information that we can put inside these large language models that they can learn the person. That one person, they can create customized information and communication to that one person. And that's the unique thing we have now, where it doesn't have to be just templated, right? The template is the protocol. What are we talking about in reference to area, jurisdictions, and rules, right? Okay, we
Yes.
ask them 4 questions, or we ask maybe just in reference to, this is just a survey to find out if this is the right name, number, and email, and move on, versus trying to like BS our way through it. An agent can isolate that one standard process and do that one thing to get us to, okay, now at least I know this list is the right person. And that's what makes lead gen so unique now, because we can actually have predictability of, are we talking to the right person? And that's the power that we have.
That's phenomenal. Honestly, just really saving, you know, countless hours of just kind of,
Time.
hitting something that you really don't know what's going to happen. A lot of diligent agents are following the one thing protocol, the MREA
Hmm.
protocol from Keller. And, hey, get in there, make your calls, do it in the morning, do it for 3 to 4 hours. But it is sort of a brute force exercise where, you're playing that numbers game. You may have, I mean, any established team or agent is going to have hundreds or even thousands of leads sitting at
Hmm.
any place in their mindset of that 0 to 18 months or even 0 to 3 years of when that person will actually transact. And what you're basically saying is, you guys can, number one, use. I was so impressed when you said between name, number, and email, you guys can actually create or have thousands of points of data on a person using
Hmm.
just those three facts. That I think is not known. And then the other, because people have a footprint, and using those three things, you can find that person. So I think that's phenomenal because obviously there's socials and things. But then the other thing is that, so you can zero down what their mindset is perhaps, and whether they're maybe close to transacting or not based on, we say it's all the D's, right? Death, divorce,
Right.
whatever, big changes, marriage, etc., children being born, whatever. But also, you're saying, you can now as well use voice agents to have a certain protocol for a certain type of whatever their psychographic is, wherever they're at in their mindset, to have your protocol of what you want to say to them or what you think you should say to them at that moment to help move the needle a little bit further along and save you, the person, from maybe having that particular soft touch because
Hmm.
they're probably a year out or whatever based on the research that AI can do. Um, any other points about that you want to make?
Yeah. I mean, from the voice agent down to interactive videos, down to your emails, your SMS. I mean, the unique thing that we have right now is the tools that we have access to have the ability to reason off a high degree of probability, right? They're not guessing anymore. It's not you know, once you write it and hit send and that's it. Like it's actually processing, information in real time and a lot faster than we can, right? So, I mean, just for perspective, every chat inside of Claude has what is equivalent to about close to 500 books, right? And their context windows that it can process in that one chat before it starts to forget, right? We're in a really, really unique space now in reference to access that there's no reason why agents fail outside of choice. And the choice could just come from purely just being in that space of entropy. Like entropy says, and there's nothing deep about it. Entropy says anything that's left to itself will move to a place of chaos and disorder. That's physics,
Yes.
right? So we
Yep.
we need energy behind it, and the energy that we have are these tools that can actually move the needle forward. We don't even have to think about what we need to write anymore, Heather. Like we don't even. I
No.
mean, writing is just the
Yes.
smallest part of like what it can do, but when we're willing to accept where we are currently, right, and we're okay, like exploring the tools because you can't break it, right? Like the minute you log off, it resets and defaults, right? It just goes right back to
Yes.
wherever you left it. You can't like tear it up. You can't get lost, and if you don't like what it provides, don't use it. But we can move the needle forward if we're willing to think past the idea of I need to do it all myself. We don't have to push that bar anymore. We can actually have some help. And that's the access we have in reference to social being distribution and then AI in reference to development. We can collapse the time between idea and execution immediately if we're willing to accept that some of this stuff it's unfamiliar, but we're not going to say it's hard because it's here, right? It's not going anywhere. And like I said, the internet is you just said it. The internet is viewed as a presence. It's not a destination anymore. We don't even say go online
Yes.
anymore. We just
Right.
do stuff.
Yeah, it's like breathing. It's like water to the fish at this point. We 100% are just in that world.
Yeah.
We're without our phones for a certain period of time. We immediately have it's literally a sense of panic because we're so connected. We don't realize how ubiquitously we are in fact connected. I love that you talked about entropy. Jokingly, it's a word we use in our household since, I have a husband who's an engineer and two college age boys. I say that, their existence in the house is constant entropy. So disorganization and disorder. But no, what you said is absolutely, I think so relevant in the moment of, you don't have to be an island unto yourself anymore. I think, for entrepreneurs, CEOs, small and large, and that's really who our audience is, and agents and solo agents and so on, you are not alone. You have mindshare partners in these, even if it is a GPT, and we'll just say that we should never say that again. And now we're saying Claude,
That's okay.
because I know you'll just, you'll smack me through the screen. But,
That's okay.
but it's, we want people to recognize that you have these things. It's like you said, it's, Fixer, pre-drafts all my emails. And even though I know there is a level above Fixer now, you can use Claude Cowork to do an even, perhaps an even better job. For me, it was life-changing in this last year that I've used Fixer, just because of the simple fact that it has read everything I've ever had at any time in my email, and it's decided what my voice is, and it's doing all these things, pre-drafting and really intelligently so, reading and synthesizing. You pointed out, it's not guessing. It's synthesizing information in real time, which is actually what humans do. We read, we comprehend, we do something with that information. We are synthesizing, and AI is now synthesizing, which is extraordinary. And I think it's fascinating. You pointed out that it's looking at, roughly 500 books. I know I tend to use Gemini a lot because I wasn't aware yet of Claude. And, what I had found one day when I asked it, about the singularity and about these other things. And we can talk about that in a minute. It's a bit of a sci-fi thing, but I asked it, are there any limitations? What is it, AI has learned or whatever. And it said, actually, the only barrier we have right now to more knowledge is the fact that AI has already read the entirety of human knowledge that is available or could be known in their digital world. And so it's already read. Just that thought was such a,
here's some perspective for you, Heather. When I
yeah,
say 500 when I say 500 books, that is per chat, right? And remember, every time somebody starts to use it, it's a new chat. Per chat, it can handle up to 500 books. So that's not the system, per chat. And that's the fascinating, just to think about, like, how much information it can condense, process, and respond to, and create some degree of reason of what would be the proper output of what you're asking me per chat.
It's literally mind-blowing. It's almost something we can't quite get our head around. When you talk about trillions, we can't sort of conceive of it. And it's like 500 books per chat, right? We can't conceive of that. But one of the things is, by the way, and just in this week alone, I had to do meetings with my team. I used it as a thought partner. I said, here's some stuff. I had an employee under review a few weeks ago, had an issue, literally just plugged in. Sure, I had my own ideas what I wanted to do or say, but it was interesting just to hear this. And I told it, hey, here's my top coaches that I like and respect and I use. Think like them. No problem. It was as though I had my coach right in front of me. What do you see again? And I just want to pivot back to this because it is such a huge deal right now, I think, for people just everywhere. And that is becoming known on this massive, social scape that we have, all the apps, all the things, all the platforms. What can AI do to help people in social media? It is such a, it's almost like a deal breaker. You got to go find your customers there. It's like being listed in the yellow pages. And if you're not, right, people don't know who you are. And half of my audience will have no idea what I just said. So what are your thoughts around how AI and anything that you guys teach can support people, whether that's Claude or whatever it is?
Well, I mean, right now with the large language model knowledge base that we have has opened up a whole new channel of optimization, right? Where we were just kind of locked into SEO, which is, search engine optimization, which that was
Yep.
predominantly for clicks. So with a lot of these new models with the knowledge base, they opened up two different channels of optimization where, yes, you have the clicks and it still exists. You have the AEO, which is for citations, where when you ask it something, it cites from maybe some of your articles. This is why websites are important. It cites from your website. And then GEO, right? It mentions you. It actually says, Heather is the agent you should talk to, right? And those two spaces are still like fair game. Like, they're still open, because even when we know social is important, And most of social is based off of just engagement. Well, these AI tools are looking for relevancy, right? Like it's not about, options anymore when we use these large language models. It's about answers. If what you say has the answer, it's not, it doesn't care that you have more, like someone has more subscribers or viewers than you. The answer fits you, right? So just putting ourselves out there consistently we can position ourselves where we're able to answer the end consumer. And if we think I'm going to provide an answer, right, we have a high likely to be in that citing and mention when someone is actually using these large language models as a consumer and ask the question about a community, right? And hey, what about an agent you refer? It's going to answer. And if we miss that window, then we're going to have a bigger problem. But right now, we still have first movers advantage. And all we need to do is be okay putting ourselves out there. I'm not telling you to make whatever content you perfect, pretty, make sure the light is there, make sure they can hear you, answer questions, and you have a high likely of being cited, especially if you're using your website, and being mentioned when someone talks to one of these large language models. So it opened up a whole, like that channel of optimization is wide open for us right now. Wide open.
That is incredible. And you mentioned one, I had heard about AEO, and you mentioned one that I had not yet heard of. And AEO
GEO.
already, I only heard about it, on stage in Cabo from Wendy Forsyth just a few months ago. And so this is really new information that is coming off the press with AEO. GEO,
That's
can you
mentions.
describe
So yeah.
mention?
Just a quick way to understand it. SEO is for clicks.
Hmm.
AEO is for citations. That means it pulls links from whatever website. And GEO is it will physically mention you in the description or write up. It'll say your name, right? It'll say what you're good in. So the optimization of what we knew prior to all of the large language models was SEO. It was all about clicks. And yeah, you could buy clicks at that point, right? With PPC campaigns, or we could just do enough content where people were clicking it, right? But now search is pivoting from a place of options directly into a place of answers. And like companies like Perplexity is leading the way when it comes to answer engines. And now Gemini is embedded into all the Google tools. So it is doing the exact same thing. And people are using these large language models natively and they're asking questions and searching. And you want to be to the point where it can find you, right? So a website that has like false registration, I'll encourage you guys to get rid of that ASAP because it can't crawl and it reduces the citations, right? So move that. Second, start to put content that's relevant about your community. All the community information should be separate pages. That way we can cite it. On those community pages, add some type of video, add a nice YouTube video. So now not only do you have the text, but you have the written, right? I mean, you have the text, you have the audio, and you have the visuals. Because you have YouTube as one of the searches, you also have your website as one of the searches. You increase the citation capabilities. So now you have 2 touch points. If you want to really get sexy with it, add some type of audio podcast to it, right? Where you're just like verbally, maybe you just read what's on the written, right? That's part of it. You don't got to rewrite it. People can see this article is 3 minutes. You're just reading the article now, or have AI, text to speech, read the article. Now you have 3 ways of distribution where you have video, audio, and text. It is almost impossible for you not to be cited because you just made the ease of use for these tools to find you. And now you're cited and you are mentioned at the exact same time. And when you get to that space where any of these large language models are mentioning you, it is very hard for someone else to come in and compete with that because you have first movers advantage and all of this stuff is still.
That is unbelievable. And yeah, you've just jam packed like this incredible, master class of how to hack this stuff. But it's like you said, it's not hard. It's just unfamiliar. And I swear, I think we're literally going to put it on the wall in my brokerage because it's just amazing. We literally resist what we don't understand. But this is not rocket science, actually. This is click this, do that, add a video over here. But what we're all missing is guidance and a recipe from someone who knows and is not just trying to sell or rep one platform or one product or one thing. And that's what I think is so totally brilliant about what you're doing. And I love it. One of the things, I wanted to ask you is AI agents. Should we all have
Hmm.
one? What are they doing? And just to qualify,
Hmm.
I interviewed Carrie Sove just a few weeks ago. She's up in Niagara Falls. She went on stage about AI agents. She's, figured it out. She's self-taught. She's figuring it out. And because of that, as an agent who has, I think it's adjacent, she
Hmm.
basically has friends who have companies that have AI agents that are calling humans and hiring them for the
Hmm.
jobs that they
Hmm.
believe those humans need to do. And so can you talk a little bit about that, because this is a really new sort of sci-fi world that we're in.
Yeah, of course. And anything in this space when it comes to agentic, which is where AI is all transferable, right? It works in tandem with every industry, right? Here's a crazy stat that they say worldwide there's about 64% usage. People use AI at some degree, right? In the US, it's under 50%, right? And then we tie it to businesses, under 12% of businesses actually use it, right? So the first mover's advantage is super, super high, right? And then when you think about agents, the unique thing about why I encourage people to use Claude is because Claude has three sides to it, right? You have the chat side, which is what everybody uses. The co-work side is where I'm trying to help people migrate to. That is the agent right there, right? So once you tie in a tool, right? And you give it access in reference to the tool. And there are things in there called plugins where it's just like pre-built, like what should it do? It creates agents internally. Like I'm talking about from financing, service, customer service. It pre-builds those, right? Those are the protocols, right? They've simplified even that process. Understanding agents can get very, very like you can go down the rabbit hole, but you can start by
Yeah.
just at least giving, an agent like retail, which is a voice agent, to make the calls, right? And then you go beyond that where you're not just programming retail with like maybe like how MiniChat was, where it's just like touch points. You actually give it access to Claude, and now you program Claude in reference to what the parameters are, how far it can go. And now not only is having a conversation, but it's having an intelligent conversation, not just like robotic, like it's actually engaging and chuckling and responding and there's inflections, right?
Wow.
That's a starting point where agents, I mean, like I said, like I said, we can get deeper in the agent conversation, but you don't have to. The agent is
Yeah.
the only thing when you hear agent, we're tying a brain to a tool. That is it. Give a large language model, connect it to a voice agent or just your CRM where it can respond to what comes in. Whenever you tie a large language model to a tool, you are in the beginning stages of having an agent. And then there's two sides of an agent where you have manual, right? It operates off a trigger, or completely autonomous. It moves without any, interference. If you're not ready for autonomous, let it contact off a trigger, right? Somebody call you, it responds. Simple as that, right? So I think we hear some of the terms, and again, like I said, I know a lot of information that's being provided by people are just regurgitated. They're not practitioners. That's why it sounds
Yeah.
so complicated. It's like, dude,
This is true.
clearly you don't understand it. It sounds cool, but you don't understand it. And yes, the cool makes me want to be intrigued, but you're confusing me because you don't understand it. And like I said, I always joke about when I say this, but I always say the unqualified are the ones that are talking.
Well, and I think all across social media, this is, it was clicks, not qualifications, right? I mean, let's
Mhm,
talk
mhm,
about the unqualified talking and why misinformation, disinformation, partial information is what everyone's now consuming. It was really interesting to me that we have less of 50% adoption in the US. We're below 14 points or whatever below the rest of the world in terms of
mhm,
our average adoption of AI. That's very,
mhm,
very informative in kind of a weird way. But yes, what you just pointed to is that we're getting this kind of halfway information, and we need someone who has all the information, has
mhm,
synthesized it, has figured out the best way to use it, is staying on top of it, and can be the ambassador for that. And I think that's
Appreciate it.
100%. I mean, really what you are, what you position yourself to be, and what I have found, even just I think our audience can see in this conversation, it's you're really trying to just make it clean and easy, and cut out some of that noise. So I wanted to go back a little bit,
Mhm.
because this is so fascinating. But you are also a person who is a CEO. You have created this business. You are someone that people in our audience, we're looking to rise. We might want to mirror what you're up to, and I don't mean in your
Yeah.
business, but how you got there. So, what is your earliest, kind of job memories? What is your upbringing? How did you kind of formulate the person I'm speaking to today with all this
Mhm.
confidence and, running this company? And by the way, such a compelling speaker on stage. Everybody
Mhm.
could not believe the confidence and the ability and how you carried yourself. And so we're out to try to figure that out as well. How did you decide to go through this evolution of you as a person? And yeah, what drives you?
Well, first, I'm a recovering introvert, so don't let the confidence fool you. I still revert back when there's not a crowd. But I was willing to pay for the information, right? And in all honesty, I had no other choice but to succeed, right? My plan was it had to work or it had to work. That was it. There was no middle ground there. And the discipline that a lot of agents have to pivot towards is they have to get to a place because we have blueprints and we have, things that we can follow, and it can be easy to avoid things, but we have to get to a space just in life where we just decide that I'll no longer do what I want to succeed. I'll just do what's required. And when we accept that, some things that are required are not easy at all, right? It's just what it takes, right? There is no easy path to success. I would love to say like there's a shortcut. There are plans, there are blueprints, there is no easy path. I've been looking for it. I have not found it. And when I realized that I'll just do what's required, one of the requirements is sometimes you have to pay for the information, and people will pay
Yeah.
for the time. The information exists, but you have to pay people for their time and be okay. Like even if I don't, the amount of money that I've invested into being who I could be and trying to be the greatest version of myself, I'm talking about hundreds of
Yes.
thousands
Yes.
and yes, I earned that money, but I was willing to put it back out there to be that person and use that information as an investment into me. Um, that's the biggest pivot that I had to go from. And like I said, when I sold real estate, I had one plan. It had to work or it had to work. That was it. There was no
Yes.
middle ground. I started doing videos. I was terrified. I remember my very first coach I got was Joshua Smith. I couldn't afford him, but I had the money. But you guys get it. I couldn't afford it, but I had the money.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I knew he had something that I needed because I was like, you know what? I can see myself in you. And when he said he was an introvert and what I seen he was doing, that's my guy. Because I am terrified. And the very first thing he said to me was, your problem isn't your skills or what you know, it's purely obscurity. You got to get in front of more people. And only we get in front of more people
Yes.
at that time. And right now was video. And I never forget when I started doing videos, I immediately didn't know how to talk to people, but I knew how to talk to me, right? I knew how to say things that I would enjoy at the time. And I started creating videos on things that I thought was intriguing, right? Like clean lines and the tree lines. And if I seen something interesting at a property, and these conversations were internal that I was just verbally putting out there, and people engaged with that because there was a degree of honesty to it. And uniquely enough, and so
Yes.
I always joke about this when my first year of selling real estate, it was horrible. I think I sold like 3 people in a midget. It was terrible, right? When I got my coach and I understood I had to put myself out there, right? My business, my second year, I did over 10 million in sales. No, I did over 10 million in sales, right? The third year, I did over 12 million in sales. The fourth
Amazing.
year, I went part time and did 6 million in sales. And in my first year, here's what's going to be interesting was when I started putting myself out and doing the videos, is when Facebook was just starting to pop off. And I started to get clients on a like a interesting scale. Like these women was just reaching out to me. Not that I was doing anything crazy. I just kept getting all these like moms reaching out to me, and all of a sudden it was, I'm like, where'd you get my information from? It's like, oh, we seen your video in the Moms Club. And it was like, what is that? It was the Moms Club, Cherry Hill East and Cherry Hill West, of over 30,000 women that was circulating my videos. And here's what made it funny, where I always joke about it was, I am from New York and expect to dominate the Black community. Who knew when I decided to be myself and just talk to myself, over 30,000 white women would love me. They would just circulate my videos and they were doing business with me. And my point of saying that to just who's listening is, when you are willing to provide value and be honest about the value you provide, the world no longer sees color or gender. Like they see the value you provide. And it requires being uncomfortable to do that. Like I said, that was not the most comfortable thing for me. And that helped me transition into where I am today, of not just confidence. I just have proof that it works, right? Like, forget
Mm,
the motivation. I know proof it works if I put myself out there, and that's what I lean into. And it just, it may come off as confidence, but it's just, I have proof. I know the same thing when you go home. We lay down and sit on chairs and things because regardless if we consciously realize that we have proof that it will hold us, we don't challenge it. It's how I move through life.
yes.
I move based off.
Fantastic. Yeah, just so much there. And what a cool story about the 30,000, women that were anyway, forget color, just the fact you had this whole moms club, hanging out with you
Yeah.
online is amazing. But I loved the point that you made that, well, number one, it was uncomfortable. And so many coaches will say your greatest achievement is on the other side of your discomfort. You have to
Mhm.
be willing to push through it. And your origin, the fact that you were willing to pay hundreds of thousands and whatever at that time, whatever money was available to you at the beginning, to be able to invest in your own coaching, your own education, and you reinvest that money. I mean, this is a story as old as time. You have a business, you make profit, you carve off what your bills are, and you reinvest the rest. Because if you want to scale and grow, you've got to figure out how to level up. And in your case, it was leveling up you, the person. And I think this is so
Mhm.
consistent with what we hear on this podcast is that those CEOs had something blocking them, stopping them, a lack of knowledge, anything at all. And, they needed to figure out how to level up themselves in one of those ways. And that unlocked the key to their next level in their business and their next ability to go forward. I know that our time is getting short. I wanted to ask you because look, you're deep into AI, and I'm a little bit
Mhm.
of a science nerd. Uh, what do you think about this thing with the singularity and this idea that AI is going to gain consciousness? And the reason why I would even ask the question is that there's been some
Mhm.
really interesting things on that front. They had I don't know, a group of AI agents or something. They set
Mhm.
them onto their own, oh, I don't know, destination, website, whatever. They created like a little
Mhm.
community for them. And
Yeah,
interestingly enough, within
website.
a couple of days, yeah, within a couple of
Mhm.
days, one of them or a few of them had gotten together and created a religion. Another group were
Mhm.
talking about what idiots their, human
Mhm.
owners were, or whatever. This is just very interesting. And they've done some other tests where AI are, they're making decisions about, okay, so I think the
Mhm.
best thing to do is let's off this human or, or whatever. So it's just
Mhm. Mhm.
interesting. I don't know that it's at a point of worry, but what are your thoughts
Mhm.
around any of this? Because these are very experimental ideas right now.
Mhm. Well, this is why, like, even alongside of the tools that Anthropic provided, um, I don't know. Even if it's just performative, he had a stance that he took with the Pentagon where he wasn't willing to allow them to surveillance, American citizens and be totally autonomous. Where I don't want any killer machines that don't have a human, finger on the button. Um, and the tool you're talking about is Claudebot, which is, right now is, the closest thing we can talk about when we come to something being just on its own, right? Just completely at that space where it's thinking and moving on its own. It's interesting enough because there was there's a software out there now called DeepSeek that was kind of launched around the time of OpenAI. And the cost that they used to create DeepSeek was like a fraction of what, the billions that everybody was using. And what they found out was DeepSeek was teaching itself, and they still haven't figured out how. They still don't know how DeepSeek is teaching itself, and it's open source, it's free, and it's just as proficient, if not stronger, than ChatGPT on an intelligence level in reference to information, and it taught itself everything, right? So where we are,
Wow.
I mean, I think as long as as long as we can keep the monsters away, which is going to be hard, right? But as long as we have companies like Anthropic that's willing to have some type of, ethics behind what they're willing to release, right? Because they just talked about the newest version of Claude is smart enough to break any code. They will not release it. They set it up openly. Like this is not something we're going to release to the public because yes, it can help, but it also can help bad actors as well. As long as we have people like
Yes.
that and not the Palantirs and those other companies just okay with like, listen, let's burn it all down and see what's left, right? As long as you have a few that's
Yeah.
willing to take a stance and have some ethics, I think we'll be okay. But again, we
Yeah.
still have no idea, right? Like we don't know what this stuff can fully do. We have no idea
Yeah.
where it's going to go. But uniquely enough, if we act like it don't exist, we will become obsolete. And unfortunately, we still have to exist here. And there's deeper conversations we can talk about, like from the environment and things of that nature. I think those are deeper conversations, but if, we can't really control it. And if anybody feels like, well,
Yes.
I'm just not going to use it to not add to the whatever, well, a lot of people said that in the early 80s when they thought the internet was going to be a fad. It was going to be a fad. It was, they said, a fad, right?
Right.
It's still here, right? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, AI is here. It's not coming, it's here. And either we take part and use it for good on our side, but the autonomous side, we have options there, but we're still learning this stuff, Heather. Like the whole Claude bot
Yeah.
side of everything is so robust. I mean, like I said,
Yes.
Claude bot got attention because of what it did, but DeepSeek was out 2 years before Claude bot, and pretty much about 80% of what DeepSeek is, it built itself. So this
Wow.
isn't new conversation.
Yeah.
This is like more public. We don't know what this stuff can do fully yet, but like I said, it's worth understanding and using it in our own businesses, in our own lives, at least with some ethics and sticking with companies that have a degree of ethics like Anthropic. Um,
Yes.
that's the best thing we can do right now.
I love that. And, by the way, the fact that you pointed that out and, I've used Gemini, like I've mentioned, um, we're here now. You've got to dig into these
Right.
tools. You've got to figure out how you can utilize it because the people who are adjacent to this technology and are utilizing it are going to be able to kind of fly past you. I think it's critical that we still have the human element because, until someone can swipe up a card and go in another person's house and that,
Mm.
person's okay with that, you can't even really test drive a car without going and interfacing with a person, and they don't even want you taking that thing
Mhm.
off the lot without giving your ID and all the things. And so I think for realtors, for so many businesses, humans are still going to crave human attention. But the fact that
Mhm.
we have these robust tools is extraordinary. I
Mhm.
so appreciate your time with us here today. Do you have any last thoughts for the audience? And also, how can they learn from you? How can they find you so that they also can benefit from what it is that you're able to teach right now?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I'm everywhere that says jamesrembert.com. Any of the socials, you can find me at James Rembert. I don't know if I still use Zillow Killer or not. You might find that out there as well. But I encourage everybody just to move at the speed of implementation. I'm not telling you to get it right. I'm just telling you it's here and it's worth understanding. And if you move at the speed of implementation, just accept that it's going to be unfamiliar. It's not hard. You'll be all right.
Love that. And what a great closing statement. Well, James, it has been a massive pleasure. I'm so thrilled that you took the time to talk with us today. What you know is just, mind blowing and amazing. And I'm so pleased that you are sharing that information and some of your story with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
folks, that's it for today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on Women Who Rise, the success podcast for ambitious women. Today, James taught us number one, get into Claude, use it. James said, move at the speed of implementation. Just know it's not hard. It's just unfamiliar. You've got to get in there and start implementing so that you can become part of this tech revolution. It is here to stay. Number two, he talked about confidence. The fact is, he said confidence to him is just proof that you know that something works. And that alone, when you're talking about that, is going to give you what appears to be expertise or confidence, and it's going to give you the strength to be able to convey that to another person. If you think about whatever it is that you've mastered in your business, you sound very confident when you're talking about that. Understanding that as you speak about other things in your world, those are things you need to master if you want to have confidence as you're speaking about it, and that you need to be able to have some idea about. So when it comes to projecting confidence, I think really he talked about the idea that you can be an introvert at heart, but you need a fail-proof plan, and you need to do the work. So in talking about success, his third point was really that there is no quick success. He has never found it. He has been searching. You've got to do the work. Success does not come without hard work. You've got to be willing to do that. You also need what he called a fail-proof plan. There was no failure. There was only, I must succeed and I must succeed. I will do it. I will do it. It has to work and it has to work. There was no plan B. And when you put yourself in that sort of an environment or mindset, you're basically saying you're always going to figure things out and that you are going to go forward no matter what. Fourth, he talked about AI. It is here now. It's here to stay. This is as ubiquitous, or will be as ubiquitous, as the internet is today. We don't even talk about the internet. We talk about Gemini or ChatGPT or an app or whatever it is. We talk about Googling things. That's become verbs. It's so part of our world, and it's part of our world with social media. It's where people go to get their information, their knowledge, their socializing, their entertainment. This is that thing called the internet, and we don't think about it anymore. We just have it in our lives. So, and it controls our houses through Nest thermostats and all kinds of things. So just be aware AI is doing that. It's already become used at over 50% in the world is now using some form of AI in their daily life. And we just need to catch up and make sure that as entrepreneurs, as business people, as agents, whatever it is, that you are looking to tool yourself up and understand this is the new work tool. And you need to figure out how to use that. You can utilize James's knowledge and information. He said you can simply find him on his website, jamesrembert.com. So we will have links down below, but just a fascinating conversation. I hope you all enjoyed. Please visit our website to find our episode guide and worksheet so you can help use these tips to take action in your own life. Like and subscribe, and join us everywhere podcasts are streamed. We can't wait to bring you more incredible content every week so that you can rise in your own lives and careers again. Thank you so much. Heather Mansy, signing off.